Thank you so much. I am so happy and honored to be standing on this main stage. This is actually the first time that I've been on the NSGC main stage, and I couldn't be happier that it is for the purpose of sharing these three women with you who have amazing and inspirational stories, and the stories that have been woven together to create who I am and shaped a lot of me and why I entered this profession. So I just want to go over a few ground rules. I want to ensure that this is a safe space for our speakers and that all points of views discussed today are part of that safe space. These individuals have lived this experience, so please respect their stories and opinions. Not that I think you wouldn't, but just to put it out there. And the terms that they use or prefer may be different than what you've been taught in school because they're using terms that have been part of this community for decades. So just wanted to make you aware of that. So with that, I'm going to bring up our first speaker, Dr. Janine Cody. She's the mother of two daughters. Her youngest, now 38, Liz, who is also here today, has an 18q deletion. She's also the founder of the Chromosome 18 Registry and Research Society, a family advocacy group that you'll be hearing about. Additionally, Dr. Cody is the director of the Chromosome 18 Clinical Research Center at the University of Texas Health San Antonio. I know that her story will inspire you, so I'm gonna let her take it from here.
Hi, good afternoon. Our story begins here with the birth of my youngest daughter, Elizabeth, who was born with a bilateral cleft palate and cleft lip and metatarsus adductus. And when she was 6 weeks old, the pediatrician called me into his office and quite unexpectedly handed me this piece of paper. And he said, she has this. She has a deletion from the end of the long arm of chromosome 18. And along with that was a book that I think some of you have seen. This was 1985. And it said really important things like small stature, long hands, obnoxious behavior, and there's only 29 cases known in the world. So, you know what that feels like? It's kind of like this. If you remember this commercial from LifeLock, in which there's a bank lobby full of customers, and a man bursts through the door with guns and says, "This is a stick-up," and the customers all hit the floor. And the guard just stands there. And the customers here, they look up, and they say, "Well, aren't you going to do something?" And he says, "No, I'm just here to tell you what's happening. I'm not here to do anything about it. There's a holdup." That's what it feels like when you get a diagnosis with no information of what to do next, what can you expect, what appointments do you make, etc. Oh, it's not going forward for me. There we go. So, we were very fortunate in that Elizabeth's dad was in the Air Force, and we lived in San Antonio. We still live in San Antonio. And it's the home of the Air Force's main teaching hospital, so we pretty much had unlimited access to fabulous medical care. And so in the next 5 years and hundreds of doctor appointments, sometimes 3 a week, many weeks like that, we learned a lot about what was going on with Elizabeth and what wasn't a problem for Elizabeth. And one of her problems was she wasn't growing. Another problem was she'd had multiple surgeries for her cleft palate and cleft lip, and they weren't healing appropriately. We also, after much, I should say 6 months of very persistent pushing, we learned that she was growth hormone deficient, a treatable condition. That's why her surgeries weren't healing. That's why she wasn't growing. Once she got on growth hormone, she grew like a weed, and she got stronger. She started to have muscle tone and shape to her body. She didn't look like a starving child. She also seemed much more alert and with it. And about that time, we also learned she was hearing impaired, a type of hearing impairment that really wasn't detected in your average sound booth test. And so at this point, I thought, you know, I gotta find those other 29 families. I mean, they need to know there are some things that can help their child. And so her neurologist said, "Oh, you want to start a support group?" And I said, "Yes." I had not a clue what he was talking about, but this is a whole different talk. So we proceeded to start the Chromosome 18 Registry and Research Society. And because we thought there were only 29 other families in the world, we thought, okay, let's include all the chromosome 18 conditions, which I got to stop myself from describing because you all know about these things. Those are the words that automatically come out of my mouth when I have this slide. We focused on really not so much trisomy 18. We're very close to our sister organization, SOFT, the trisomy 18 organization, but all of our families are very focused on special ed and speech therapy and physical therapy and not just keeping the children alive. And so the Chromosome 18 Registry has 3 areas that we focus on. Of course, building community, which we do through lots of social media, conferences, regional get-togethers, international conferences, and of course, advocacy at all sorts of levels. Also have lots of education programs with the website, newsletters, YouTube videos, that sort of thing. And of course, we do lots of investing in research, which means we have an endless fundraising goal happening all the time. And our goal, of course, is to make the chromosome 18 conditions the first treatable chromosome abnormalities. These aren't magic. It's not fate. It's just biology. If it's just biology, we can figure this out. There's no reason we can't, so we should. And we learned very early on that as a support group, we could send out surveys, we could get medical records, we could get information from families, but then we didn't know quite what to do next. Multiple people would report hearing impairment, but was it sensory neural? Was it conductive? And you could ask questions like that for all the answers we got back on the surveys. We realized we needed help. We needed professional help. So I reached out to the clinical geneticist, Celia Kay, at UT Health in San Antonio, and she got together a whole team of pediatric subspecialists who thought this was a fabulous project, and she gave them assignments, and then they started to work on academic timeframes. Not the same as a parent's time frame, let me tell you. It's like comparing geologic time to your calendar, okay? So I thought, okay, so what do I do next? How do I get this moving and keep it going? I need to be on the inside. So I enrolled in graduate school. And many years later, here I am, here's Elizabeth. She was 12 at the time with me and my parents when I graduated and finished my PhD in human genetics. And in that time, we formed the Chromosome 18 Clinical Research Center, which I still direct. And our goal, of course, is to make the chromosome 18 conditions the first treatable chromosome abnormalities. And so what do we mean by that? Well, when we go to Washington, we tell them we want to make our kids ineligible for SSI. That gets their attention. We don't want to have special needs trusts. Now, yeah, those are big, hairy, lofty, way out there goals, but that's what you need to do if you're ever going to make any progress. And so our research center strategy for addressing those goals, or that goal, is twofold. First, to employ whatever established therapies there are, define standards of care for treatment of people with chromosome 18 abnormalities. For example, have them tested for growth hormone deficiency. That was something not done at the time that Liz was first diagnosed. When there's not a standard therapy, we need to figure out what novel therapies need to be developed. So at the research center, we have, and I kind of skipped the slide that said there are 4,000, I forgot that. The Chromosome 18 Registry actually has about 4,000 members in the US and about 2,000 around the country. In the research program, the lifetime longitudinal study of people with chromosome 18 abnormalities, we have just over 700 families enrolled. So you can see the distribution among the various chromosome 18 conditions here. And they come from really all over the world, although we've really focused on those who speak and understand English because we use some standardized evaluations that are only normed for English-speaking children. And of course, at the Research Center, we do sort of all the usual things that a research center would do. We have a DNA and cell bank. We have DNA and lymphoblastoid cell lines on all the individuals and their parents. We collect the medical records, which get abstracted into our database. We do all kinds of surveys about behavior and life and development. We, of course, do DNA analysis. We do clinical evaluations when we have funding to do that, where we bring in families and they're evaluated by a group of specialists. And then the point of all this is to then create information for families. And to this point, we have management guides on our website for these conditions. The management guides have sort of what I think of as 3 levels. The first, the top page, is a 60-second summary, or what we call, "Don't panic, it's only a chromosome." This is a page that a family might just want to give to their ophthalmologist before they see them. They don't need to know everything there is to know about ring 18 or 18p minus. They just need to know that, okay, this is not a child who's not going to be verbal. They're probably running around the office. They're probably not in a wheelchair, et cetera, that kind of thing. So just give them an overview of what the conditions are. The second page I think of as kind of a table of contents. And it's really a list of the referrals that need to be made and for when someone's first diagnosed, and then the main things that need to be monitored for management. And then the third section, the following 30-some pages, are all the data we have that support that, lots and lots of neuropsych information about development, as well as the information we have about those few with any of these conditions who have passed away and what conditions led to their death. So we of course have to, beyond that was employing the standard medical treatments. Next thing is to devise new treatments. And of course, these are chromosome abnormalities caused by copy numbers of various genes that are not in 2 copies. And so we've got to figure out which are the key genes. And I hear a lot of people, I'm sure no one in this room, saying that, oh, it's a big deletion, they must be seriously affected, or it's a little deletion, they must be mildly affected. Not true, and let me show you an example. So this is the deletion, which if it was on here, you can't even see it. This is a teenage girl who has a deletion, a hemizygous deletion of 100,000 base pairs that includes just 1 gene. And she has a developmental age of 11 months. So she doesn't walk, doesn't talk, even though she's a teenager. And I'm sure most of you have probably already guessed that this is the TCF4 gene, so she has Pitt-Hopkins syndrome. Contrast that with another teenage girl who has a deletion 60 times bigger. It includes 27 genes, and her IQ is 120. Now, she has foot issues, she has a hearing impairment, she has executive function issues, so, but very, very different than the other child, or the other young lady. So it's really the genes that matter. So our task at the Research Center is to figure out which genes are the culprits and which genes are the bystanders. And just as this cartoon shows, most of them are bystanders. And here's our current data. There are 263 genes on chromosome 18. 139 of them are considered normal variants if you have 1 copy instead of 2. 77 are really normal variants if you have 1 copy instead of 2, unless you have a mutation, a loss of function mutation on the other chromosome or the other gene. So those are recessive conditions. So for the most part, that doesn't affect most everyone with a deletion of those genes. So there's 25 dosage-sensitive genes, and only 22 so far that we don't know anything about. And the way we illustrate that on our website is shown here. On the left-hand side are all the phenotypes and with the genes that are causative. And you'll notice some are in bold and some are in plain font. The ones in bold font that phenotype occurs in more than 50% of the individuals with a deletion of that gene. The ones in normal font occur in less than 50%, so they have low penetrance. On the right-hand side are the phenotypes that are only defined by a region because we haven't identified the specific gene. And again, the dark bars are the ones that are more than 50% penetrant, and the lighter gray bars are less than 50% penetrant. And so the phenotype regions are a lot of the low penetrance things because we don't have very many people who have those conditions, so it's hard to bracket and identify the key gene, or they might be caused by more than one gene. The really important factor, which I don't usually point out to an audience but is pertinent to all of you, because you're often put by your clients in a position of being predictive. And from this, you can see there's not a lot of prediction you can do. Most of these are low penetrance. So it makes it really hard to predict how someone may be affected with a chromosome 18 abnormality. So this is the gene dosage map for deletions. The gene dosage map for duplications isn't quite as great. We're working on it. We just got funding to do high-resolution genotyping, actually long-read sequencing, on 25 individuals with partial duplications of chromosome 18, so we're hoping that will help improve our duplication map. And of course, we do probably what all other groups do, further getting answers. Whole genome sequencing, we do as many kinds of remote assessments as we can possibly do, and now, really thanks to COVID, that everyone can do Zoom, we can do Zoom interviews. We are focusing our phenotyping on those aspects that might be good clinical endpoints in the future, because what we are really going for are drug trials, clinical trials that will help correct the phenotypes that people have with these conditions. And of course, we have a variety of stem cells and organoids and such from very specific individuals for specific phenotypes, and of course the mouse models that go along with that. And so here are the websites for more information if you have any questions or you want to look any of this up. Lots and lots of information there. And with that, I'd like to tell you a very short story about, I think, 26 years ago, back when I was still a graduate student and I was the one answering the phone because we didn't have any employees. Now we have 4, thank you God. This is at the Chromosome 18 Registry. I got a phone call from a dad whose daughter had ring 18, and so we had this great conversation, and I told him everything I knew at the time, which of course is a lot less than we know now. And at the end of the conversation, I told him, I said, you know, really the most important thing you can do is get a pediatrician who will give you the referrals you need. And he said, I think I won't have a problem with that. My wife's a pediatrician. So, thank you so much for your attention, and I'll turn it back to Dena.
Isn't that an amazing story? From mom to geneticist and world-renowned researcher in that condition. I love those stories. So we talked, that's the science that this foundation does. It's so wonderful, all the information that they've been able to provide families. So now we're going to kind of shift to the psychosocial benefits of being part of this organization. So I am going to talk about sibling perspectives. This is a topic that I don't always feel gets as much attention as I think it deserves when we're talking about the family unit of somebody with profound disabilities. So just want to put the disclaimer out there that every sibling's experience is unique. I'm representing my experience and the experiences of those I've interacted with and collected some of the quotes from. So I am the oldest of 3 girls, and my sister Ellie is 6 years younger than me, so that is a different sibling life experience than somebody who's 1 year older or a sibling who's younger. And we're also one of 3, which is going to be different than someone who's one of 5 or one of 2. And we're 3 sisters, which again will be different than having brothers. And there's all these different dynamics that may make a sibling's experience different. So for me personally, the Chromosome 18 Foundation itself has impacted my life. It's always been my #1 choice of charities whenever I've had to raise money, and it's why I became a genetic counselor. So every year at the conference, there's a separate track for parents and for siblings broken up by different ages, and then for the self-advocates themselves. And I've had the opportunity to give a what is Chromosome 18 genetics kind of 101 for siblings to learn about their own siblings' chromosomes. And that was something I did when I was first starting in my career. And then there's this really special event where all the siblings sit on stage and they answer questions for the parents and other family members. And some years it's been just the siblings and no self-advocates were allowed in the room, and some years it's been a mix of the self-advocates and the siblings. So I wanted to share with you today some of the topics that we discussed, because I don't think these are something that are so straightforward or that a lot of people think about unless you are a sibling of a person with disabilities. So the first thing is our careers. The careers we choose are often affected by the experience of growing up with a sibling with a disability. Many of us have joined the healthcare industry, education, special services, and other careers heavily impacted by our own life experience. The maturity level in many cases, not all cases, but of other siblings is often much higher than others typical of their age. And many of us will end up being our siblings' caretaker when our parents pass away. Some already have, and some will actually deny that responsibility. It's very individual, but these are the serious topics that we discuss at these conferences. Many siblings believe that our siblings are actually more capable than people, including our parents, give them credit for. And there's a common theme that they can get away with more. And we have special ways of communicating, even when a sibling is nonverbal. Sometimes no one can understand or can communicate as well as a sibling can. And we can sometimes calm them down when no one else can. And the experience is very different if you went to the same school as your sibling versus separate schools, or if you had a big enough age gap that you weren't in school at the same time. And a big one that I remember for me is that it's very difficult to take a vacation or travel when you have a member of the family with disabilities and special medical needs. So for example, Ellie required growth hormone shots. And so you can imagine TSA isn't always the easiest to get through with a cooler and syringes. And wherever you go, there has to be a refrigerator because that it needs to be in the fridge. That's just one example. Sometimes just the ability of her energy level or her ability to walk around can be limiting when we think about family vacations. And so many of the siblings have actually studied abroad to have kind of their own time to travel. And we also have special time we spend with our parents. I know my parents made a lot of effort to make sure that me and my other sister had a lot of attention and really felt the same amount of attention as Ellie did. And then the biggest one that always comes up is the litmus test. And this is our sibling, and the way that people in our lives treat the sibling is so incredibly important. We do not have any time or energy or space for anybody who treats our sibling with anything but respect. And so there was actually a year that I went to this conference without my parents, but I went with my then boyfriend, who a parent in the audience asked about significant others and how we introduced our siblings to our significant others and what it was like for them. And my boyfriend at the time stood up in front of this huge room and said that the conference had impacted him so much, and he saw my sister in a different light after attending this conference, and it was so moving to everyone there, and that's when I knew that he was going to be my husband. So, yeah, and he is now. But it's not just that, it's also friends, right? I can always tell when someone doesn't treat people with disabilities with respect, and again, I don't have the space for those people in my life. And that's how a lot of us, we're fiercely protective of our siblings and of anybody with disabilities. And so this is a picture of my husband and my sister, her husband, and then Kat, this is Janine's other daughter, Kat, and her husband. So it's a big, family affair. So now I'd like to share with you a little bit of some of the sibling pairs. And I had posted in our sibling group for people to share some of their experiences with me. And I'm not going to read the whole quote, I'll just kind of summarize what was said. But I do want to give a special shout out. So just like her mom, Dr. Catherine Cody Larson was kind of the OG sibling in the Chromosome 18 Research and Registry. So she's almost been a good friend and mentor to me as well. And she is a child psychiatrist, again, probably very heavily influenced by her life experience. Another sibling pair that I wanted to mention are Abby and Caitlin. So Abby is a NICU nurse, and she attributes her ability to work with patients and have the empathy she has because of growing up with her sister. Kendall and Daniel. Kendall's a creative director at an online pharmacy who's trying to make it more accessible to people who are nonverbal or non-communicative so that her brother can fill his own prescriptions. And Kayla and Remy, and Kayla, she's the younger sister in this sib pair, and she shared that her friendships have been affected positively or negatively by the way that people treat her sister. And then Becky and Sarah. So Sarah shared with me that she became a speech pathologist because out of all of her sister's medical appointments growing up, she was included in the speech therapy. And it was such a profound impact and influence on her that she decided that's what she wanted to do because she was included at that young age. So you can see that these life experiences are very profound on our life decisions. And there's really something special about knowing that you're walking into a space where you know that your sibling will be treated with kindness and where other people will just get it. And I've noticed as I've become an adult that about half of my closest friends also randomly have a sibling with some sort of disability. So there's something about it, something about our life experience that really draws us together. And I thought that needed to be said. So I wanted to thank Janine for, this is us at a bunch of genetics conferences, and Rick from Positive Exposure, who comes to all the Chromosome 18 conferences. I wanted to thank her for helping me, leading me to this field. So the next part, we're going to switch over, and I just want to define these models of disability because it's one of our objectives. So there's the medical model and the social model. And the medical model focuses on the individual viewing disability as a condition or impairment that needs to be treated or cured or managed medically. And it really focuses on interventions and aiming to fix or compensate for impairments through medical or therapeutic means, whereas the social model of disability perceives the limitations as a result of the interaction of the individual and society's barriers. And it really aims to modify society by removing these barriers and promoting inclusiveness. And really, I've heard talks before on the stage where people were really leaning towards this social model. And when I thought of it with my experience and my sister, it really needs to be a balanced approach. Because the best way to really help people with disabilities is to consider both medical interventions and social adjustments to effectively address the diverse needs of the disability community. So that leads me into our next speaker, who also happens to be my mom. Dr. Susan Sheinkop, a pediatrician for 34 years, but more importantly, the mom to Ellie, our self-advocate, Becky, an educator, and me. She has a special interest in helping families of children with disabilities navigate the medical system. So she's going to share her story now.
Thank you so much for having me today. Ellie was born in November of 1995, and I was 36 years old, and because I was a mother of advanced maternal age, I had an amnio, and it was normal. Because I was a physician, I noticed that Ellie was not making normal milestones. So we sought out OT, PT, speech, developmental therapy. I enrolled her in early intervention. I thought maybe she's having seizures. Took her to a neurologist, had a normal EEG, didn't find anything. He said, I think she's just a little behind, no big deal. But I noticed she was a very poor eater. Her growth was slow. She had reflux. She was a very quiet baby. So I took her to another neurologist at age 15 months, and he looked at her and said, I think she has a chromosome abnormality. And what did I say? I had a normal amnio. And he said, I think she has a mosaic chromosome abnormality. And he was right. So we had high resolution chromosomes, and 70% of her blood cells were affected with ring 18. We saw no genetic counselor, there wasn't one. And I saw a medical geneticist, and he handed us a stack of case reports, and then the photocopied page that Janine showed you from Smith's Recognizable Patterns of Human Malformation. And if you haven't seen this book, it's part of your education. You really need to look at it. It's horrible. The available information was out of date, it was incorrect, didn't have much, and it just makes you feel sick inside as a parent. Fortunately, Ellie's dad, my husband Jay, is an early adopter, and we had internet. So we found the Chromosome 18 Registry and Research Society, which at that time probably existed in Janine's basement. And so when we called, she answered. And she told us about growth hormone deficiency and some of the other issues that people with chromosome 18 deletion syndromes face. And of course, lucky me, I have a friend who's an endocrinologist. So we got her tested immediately, and we were able to start her very quickly on growth hormone. Conventional thinking back in 1995 was, why would you put a disabled child on growth hormone? It will make them bigger and harder to move and harder to handle. It wasn't taking into account all the wonderful things growth hormone can do for a child who's deficient, even with a chromosome abnormality. And for Ellie, it dramatically improved so many things as it did for Liz early on. She got 8 teeth inside of like 6 weeks. So fortunately for us, the national meeting of the Chromosome 18 Registry and Research Society happened to be in Chicago that summer at Hamburger University in Oak Brook. And our whole family was able to attend. And I have to tell you, that meeting was life-changing. We heard about the latest research. We met other families. We just learned about taking care of a child with a disability in general. And it was a safe space. You could say anything you want, and everybody around you understood, and this meeting gave us a lot of hope. Having a foundation or a support group is vital to parents. Parents feel alone. Parents feel isolated. Sometimes extended family is great, and sometimes they completely ignore you. And this is an area where you, as a genetic counselor, can be a lifeline. You have access to so many resources and so much information, and I have to tell you, even being a physician, I was paralyzed when I heard this news. And I didn't know where to turn, and I was a doctor. So a genetic counselor can really steer people in the right direction. Our next few years were filled with all the same challenges that any parent with a disabled child faces: medical care, therapy, school, advocacy. Dena asked me, would my journey be different in 2023 than in 1995? And the answer is yes and no. Yes, because I'm a physician, I think Ellie received therapy and diagnostic services back in 1995 much more quickly than most patients would have. And today, probably Ellie would have genetic testing much quicker. There's so much more information regarding her syndrome, and there would be much more information available to her medical team and her therapist and her parents. But prenatal testing probably wouldn't have picked it up today any differently than it was in 1995. It's a mosaic abnormality, and I'm not sure if it's changed, but at that time an amnio was only 10 or 12 cells, so it was hard to pick up. We would have gotten the diagnosis more quickly, but the work of taking care of Ellie and any other child with a disability is the same. Lots of medical care, lots of educational advocacy. So in that case, it wouldn't really have changed anything. Dena had asked me when she was talking about this presentation if I could compare the medical and social models of disability. And at first I said, what are you talking about? That's not anything I ever learned in school, and I do understand after reading them they are important, but I have to tell you, as a parent, one does not distinguish between these frameworks. You need both paradigms to successfully allow your child to reach their greatest potential. So we talked about the medical model, perceiving a disability as a defect which needs to be fixed or cured. Well, yeah, I mean, we needed to fix Ellie a lot. You know, for her to be who she is today, she had so many things consistent with chromosome 18 abnormalities. She had a club foot which needed to be repaired. She had 5 sets of ear tubes for recurrent infection. She had hundreds of hours of delayed milestones. When I saw her jump for the first time, I thought, oh my God, that's $50,000 in physical therapy. She did not walk or talk till she was 3.5 years old. She received growth hormone starting at age 18 months, and it improved her strength and likely her cognitive skills, and it helps her be the person that she is today. So early on, that medical model and that medical intervention was the major focus for us and probably is for many children with a disability. And as your parent, like I said, you want your kid to be the best that they can be. In the social model, it addresses more of the functional limitations that a child or any person with a disability encounters in dealing with the physical and social barriers that exist in society. And I think we're making headway. I think society is improving access for people with physical disabilities, social opportunities to a wide array of people with different functional abilities. And I think it's great, but we're not completely there quite yet. I know there's movements to make a workplace more inclusive, and that's a fantastic idea, but it's kind of hard for a business to implement that and still remain competitive in the work environment. Ellie's very lucky. She's had amazing, wonderful opportunities. As she'll tell you, she's an avid Special Olympian, and we built a social community for her as well as for us. She got to golf with a pro at a professional tournament. She got to play basketball on the floor of the United Center before a Bulls game. And she attended a college experience programs. And these opportunities are a direct result of society recognizing that we need to create opportunities for people with different abilities. And people with disabilities are more capable, as you will find out in a few minutes, than many people understand, and they have a lot to contribute. So I'll let Dena take it away.
I don't think is my mic on? Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to take this last part to have a little interview with Ellie. I know not everybody has such a close person to them that has intellectual and physical disabilities. And so Ellie and I started doing Instagram Lives, and she loved it, right?
Yeah.
It's one of our favorite things to do together. And so that kind of inspired this. We got such great feedback that I wanted to bring this to the main stage. And so here we are. Are you excited?
Yeah.
And you told me you're not nervous at all.
No.
Great. So Ellie, can you introduce yourself to everybody?
Hi, my name is Ellie, and I'm in the Chicago area, and I'm 27 years old, and I'm a self-advocate.
Yeah. And what are you? What is your chromosome abnormality?
Ring 18.
Great. And let's talk about your life. So let's talk about your current living situation. Who do you live with?
I live with my mom and dad. Yeah.
And you have a future opportunity coming really soon?
Yeah. I'm getting a house in the community that's a community private home for people with special needs and they'll live in.
Yeah, so you're gonna be living in a private community home with how many other adults with special needs?
It's 4.
4. And you will all kind of live on your own and be,
Yep.
pretty independent on your own. And why don't you tell everyone about what you do for work?
My work, I am a busser and a hostess at a land farm. It's a community place that home with special needs.
Yeah, so you work at Lamb's Farm, the community where a lot of people with disabilities work and live, right?
Yeah.
And you feel very supported there? Yeah, good. Oh, you know what? I forgot we had slides for this. I don't want to miss those because we got to show everyone at your job. Okay, so let's talk about some challenges and strength that you've had. What are some of the challenges that you face on a daily basis?
My challenges are communication and tremors and anxiety and sometimes hearing.
Yeah. So the hearing and communication, how do you overcome those challenges?
I say them again.
You say it again. So if someone doesn't understand you, you say it again.
Yeah.
And if you can't understand something someone said because of your hearing, what do you do?
Say it again, please.
You ask them to say it again. Perfect. And so now let's talk about your tremors that you have, your hand tremors. What kind of things, how does that challenge affect your daily life?
It affects me because I can't write or draw or do like cook or something.
Cutting, the knife skills, it makes it difficult for you. And we're going to get back to the tremors in a second. But let's talk about the anxiety you mentioned. So who supports you and what do you do for your anxiety?
I do a therapist, and it helps me with my tremors, like therapist. The therapist, she helped me to cope with my anxiety.
How does he help you cope with your anxiety?
He cope with my, he give me a piece of paper. It has all those things.
Yes, you have a piece of paper with exercises and coping mechanisms, right? What else do you do for your anxiety? You told me you do some self-talk?
Yeah, self-talk.
What are the things you tell yourself?
I'm good, and I'm great, and I can push through it.
And you can push through it, great. And that helps?
Yeah.
Wonderful. And then what is something that makes you, what's something you can't do that makes you sad or that you wish you could do?
I wish I could drive.
You wish you could drive. And how do you overcome that? How do you get around?
I'll communicate, commute to, I use the public transportation.
Yeah, you've used public transportation, and how else do you get around?
And my parents.
And your parents. And then what in the future do you hope to overcome this?
A self-driving car.
Yeah. She's a perfect candidate for a self-driving car, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about some of your support systems. Who are some people in your life who support you?
I say my mom and my sister and my friends.
Your mom, sister, friends. And you told me also your healthcare provider, your doctors.
Yeah.
They support you. How do they support you?
They support me going rough times and...
When you're having a rough time?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then your friends, do most of your friends have disabilities?
Yes, they do.
And why do you think that is?
It's the community, and I met them from Special Olympics. I met them from activities.
Yeah, so most of your friends are from all of the opportunities that you've been given, right? All right, now let's share with everybody your hobbies and interests, because you are an avid athlete, right?
Yeah, I'm an athlete.
So what activities or hobbies do you enjoy on your free time?
I do Special Olympics. I like to draw. I like to play video games and do Legos. Yeah,
Legos, video games, drawing. And you also said hanging with friends.
Yeah, hanging.
Right? So how do you keep in touch with your friends?
By texting, FaceTime, face-to-face. Yeah.
So technology and in person, great. So we discussed earlier that your therapist helps support you when you have anxiety. I want you to share with everybody the recent story where you were actually a self-advocate with your neurologist. Can you tell everyone that story?
I was in a neurologist, and I saw a commercial for a watch that helped with tremor, and I decided to ask, is that a good idea for me? So I asked my person and said, hey, is this the right option for me? And he said, this is a possibility.
Yeah. So you advocated for yourself because you saw a commercial, and then you asked the doctor if the thing in the commercial would be helpful for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes an awesome self-advocate. And so there's many more opportunities for adults with intellectual disabilities today than there ever was before. And one example is the REACH program at the University of Iowa. So Ellie, can you tell everyone about the REACH program?
The REACH program is a Big Ten experience, which is help with some life skills, and skills that you need in life.
Yeah, so a Big Ten experience where you're learning life skills. What kind of life skills did you learn there?
Cooking, being with a roommate, and
That's a skill a lot of people need, right?
yeah.
What other skills?
And sometimes communication skill and money.
Yeah, you learning how to pay for things?
Yeah.
And you learning how to drive a bus. And I remember you learned how to use the post office to send my dog a Valentine. Not me, my dog. And what was your favorite part of REACH?
I like going to the football games and basketball games.
Yeah.
Sporting events.
Yeah. Which one? Oh, football, basketball. Yeah, you said that. So you really kind of got that college experience that a lot of us, that you saw me and Becky get, right? Yeah. And what did you do after your REACH program?
After my REACH program, I did a culinary school that I learned how to chop stuff and use knives and use the oven.
Yeah, your culinary skills?
Yeah.
Do you use those today?
Yeah.
Sometimes?
Sometimes.
Yeah. I know the tremors make it hard. So we're going to move to your dreams and goals. So tell everyone what your dreams or goals are for the future.
I want to have a house.
A house.
Get a dog named Chewy.
A dog named Chewy, short for?
Chewbacca.
For Chewbacca. And where did we get that idea?
Instagram Live.
Yeah, a genetic counselor that might be sitting out here gave you that idea, huh? Yeah. And then what's the other thing you wanted?
And then a self-driving.
Yeah, self-driving car. Yeah. I think that's a great future. So do you see yourself getting married or having children?
No.
No. You're good with your dog and self-driving car?
Yeah.
And being an aunt?
Yeah.
Okay, so for all the genetic counselors and healthcare providers in the audience, let's say that we are seeing a new patient who has intellectual disabilities. How can we give them the best care?
Don't just give them a thing or
A diagnosis?
a diagnosis. Just say, I want to learn to get know you better.
Okay, and how can we get to know these patients better?
Their interests, their hobbies, their siblings, or their challenges and strengths,
Yeah.
their age.
And how does that, once we get to know one of them, how is that going to help them? How do you feel when your doctors get to know you?
I feel great when they get to know me, so they don't get the wrong information or wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. And so the last part of this is a little bit of your personal thoughts. So when you enter a room of people and you're the only one there with a disability, do you feel different?
No.
No, not at all?
No.
Great. And this next question we do every year at the Chromosome 18 conference. Every self-advocate is asked this, and even siblings are asked this. But I'm going to ask this now. So Ellie, if you could take a pill to cure your disabilities, would you?
No. I like the way I am.
Yeah. And that is the answer from every self-advocate. Yeah. Oh, you got claps. So the last question I just want to ask and clarify, are you happy with your life?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Do you feel sad that you have a disability ever?
No.
Great, great. So unfortunately, we don't have time for question Q&A at this session, but please leave them on the app, and Ellie, or come find us in the expo hall. We're going to be, all of us will be in the expo hall this evening after this segment, and we are going to be making a video to answer any questions that we see on the app, because Ellie loves making these videos, right?
Yeah.
And Ellie, last question, why do you like making videos?
Because it's just you can
in the expo hall this evening after this segment, and we are going to be making a video to answer any questions that we see on the app, because Ellie loves making these videos, right?
Yeah.
And Ellie, last question, why do you like making videos?
Because it's just you can all learn about me and learn who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, so people can get exposure to, to you or someone with intellectual disabilities. Yeah, yes. Well, thank you all so much for letting me share my personal story and their stories with you, and I hope it was incredibly inspiring as it has been to me. And I know Ellie has been looking forward to this for a long time, so she's going to be talking about it for a long time, all right? Thank you.